हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू एग्जामपुर। आई होप माय वॉइस इज ऑडिबल, क्लियरली स्क्रीन विजिबल है सभी को। So we are going to discuss the DNA session, daily news analysis. We do discuss of every day at 12 to 1. And in case of static portion, you can attend my class from 9 to 10, which belongs to which is totally relevant to the economic static part. And a probe into the Nehruvian pledge. This is the article which is based on totally on the socio-economical aspect, which is making the reliance on not only on the growth perspective but also on the developmental parameters. We need to focus on many of the transformational aspect in order to accommodate the developmental parameters. Within the lag of periphery of the developmental parameters, we need to acknowledge certain pointers. Just have a glance regarding the article. This article, Nehruvian pledge, we were talking about with the segment of economy at the time of independence. What we have talked about in order to make the inclusivity in the economy. And what is all about the inclusivity? What we are trying to look at, that is the developmental parameters in today's time, at least for the time being. Why we are emphasizing on the point of development? Because growth perspective, which we can consider it as the indicator for the prosperity signal. If you have to check out any economy, what you need to do, you just have to look at the growth pace of any economy. But this is not so in today's time. Good morning. Just have a fluency in English by watching the videos in English, and try to make write-ups at least. The moment you will start writing or start making the notes in English, or try to think over the segments in English, you will get automatically. It is not making any sense. Even if you are from Hindi medium, it can make you in fluent. It is not necessary. You just need a walk and talk in any language. It's a kind of medium. You need to have a kind of belongingness with the segment, that you are carrying the language. You have to make the deliverance in the perspective. First of all, you just have to carry the things and try to write the things in English, and think the aspects, and thinking power should be in English. You will automatically get improvised version in English. Okay. Good morning, Aman. Good morning, Serge. And first of all, in this article, what we are going to talk about, I am just going to let you know about certain principle you have to come across in the article. Okay. What all points you need to make the consideration of? First of all, we need to look at the difference between growth versus developmental parameters. Developmental parameters. What is the difference between growth and what is development? What is the difference between growth and development? If you have to look at the growth perspective, suppose if you are looking at any country, if you are looking at anybody's growth, you have to go for, if you are looking at the prosperity, if I would say, it would be considered a signal for prosperity. Prosperity. It would be signal for the prosperity, but need to have the inclusiveness. If there is inclusivity, it is making the upliftment in standard of living. Inclusivity means, what do you mean by inclusivity? Suppose you are having a class of 50 students and 10 students are scoring beyond 95%. Okay. if 10 students are scoring beyond 95%, it would be considered as a growth oriented segment, because 10% of the students are scoring more than 90%, 95%. Getting my point? And in case of development, if out of those 50 students, if 40 students are scoring, 80 plus, it would be known as inclusivity of the students in the segment. Most of the students are belonging to a developed class. Developed class in the case of knowledge I am talking about. Getting my points? When you are including more and more people into the segment, you have to come across that segment with the number of people. If you are including more and more people into the segment, it would be considered as developed segment. Getting my point? You need to increase the number of people you need to deal with. Getting my point? And this is comparatively broader aspect. This is comparatively broader aspect, which is making the reliance on the standard of living. Which is making the reliance on the standard of living. How your lifestyle is going towards. Getting my point between the difference. Look at this prospect. This is considered as the indicator for prosperity. If it is prosperity belonging to any common people. Why I am saying so? If there would be prosperity, obviously it has to become reachable towards the grassroots level as well. But how much equality you are showing towards? If you are continuously making the growth in the parameters, but it is not reaching out to the grassroots level, it would not no more a indicator for the prosperity. Prosperity would be, we can indicate the growth prospect as the signal for prosperity only when it is making inclusivity in the segment. Getting my point? I hope it has made the clearance in the topic. Now, I am going to start with the segment which is inequality. Inequality is the part of developmental assessment. How much sections of the society you are involving in the developmental scheme of the government. Getting my point? How much inclusiveness is there? How much inclusiveness is there? How much involvement of population is there in growth? You can include the growth perspective in the developmental parameters only when you are making the involvement of more and more population into the segment. Getting my point? Next point. What is this all about? Inequality of opportunity, when Nehru wanted to eradicate, has only systematically widened. What we are talking about here is, I am going to elaborate this point with the help of Made a Trust, with the Destiny and Pledge, larger cause of humanity. What we are talking about, service of the million who suffers, and ending of poverty and ignorance and disease. What I am talking about here is, you have to look at the principle inequality. Inequality does not only belong to the economical strata, but it is also gender based, plus other influential social aspects. These are the key points which is the cause of inequality. You can consider it as. Getting my point? What is economical cause? If I would talk about the economical cause, you can take the help of this K-shape. And whenever you do come across this K-shaped curve, you have to think about the pandemic problem. Pandemic problem when many of the people has gone out of jobs. Out of jobs. First condition is when many of large portion of the population, large segment has gone unemployed. First of all, they are not at all in condition to make revival out of this point. You can consider those segment in this part, which is drowning, or it is so troublesome to get along with the pace of professionalism. This is for service sector, which has revived at a faster pace. Service sector or large segment, large scale, which has revived at a faster pace. It was not so difficult for Amazon to get a same pace after the pandemic time, but it is going to make a huge difference when we do talk about a small producer or the small outlet which has suffered a lot due to the pandemic period. Getting my point? Getting my point? The economical, if you are coming across the economical pointers, you have to go for the professionals and the service sector and the lower pace. If this is lower in the pace, then you have to talk about the small producers and you have to talk about the migrants, which has suffered a lot in the segment. Getting my point? So you can take a good help out of the pandemic point of view. So this is the article totally. If we are not serving, if you are attaining the growth time by time, but it is not helping out millions who is really suffering about, if you are not making the sufferings cured of the people, then it would not be considered as the prosperity signal in the economy. Next point, article, what we are going to totally focus in the article, that is totally belonging to the gender inequality, social inequality and the practice of democracy. We are talking about, when we do talk about practice of democracy, you need to acknowledge the common man, social aspect, how much inclusivity is there, how much involvement is there of women. Getting my point? These three aspects, if we are accommodating these three aspects, means we are moving towards the developmental segment. You need to make acknowledgement of two periphery, that is social plus the economical. Social means you are showing the inclusivity, social economical domain. You need to focus economical domain, which is going to establish the development, and social is meant for inclusivity, how much involvement is there of population, and economical accessibility. If these both are the part of economical domain, you can consider this as the developed segment. Getting my point? Gender inequality we are going to discuss in detail. Social inequality we are going to discuss in detail. These both are complementary to each other, and practice of democracy, you need to include the MSME sectors and the agriculture sector, which is really serving hard into our country, even at the time of pandemic, when no other sector could have made the contribution in that time leg. Only agriculture sector has made the inclusivity in the same thing. So we cannot afford to make the distraction from the out of the segment. What we are talking about here is, first we can look at the health indicator, where we are going so bad. We have attained approximately 146th rank in the health sector. I am going to elaborate in detail, but before going forward, you have to make the analysis of maternity mortality ratio. How much it should be the target of? as per the developmental goal. Developmental goal means SDG goal. We do talk about always. SDG goal. First goal is all about what? Poverty. Second goal is all about what? Hunger. Third is all about health. This health indicator involves such kind of problem which is dealing with the maternal mortality ratio, which is above 140 per lakh. Live birth I am talking about. Number 2, how much should be the target? It is the eligible criteria to get passed in any examination, that is 40%. That is the eligibility criteria. This is your target at least to get passed. In the same way, in SDG goal, Sustainable Developmental Goal, this was the target or expectation from the countries to acquire at least below 70. At least below 70 out of 640. You can just make the expectation which is 140. Twice of the target you can talk about. This is twice of the target you were expecting from the countries, that MMR should be below 70. It should go. In order to accommodate the sustainable development goal. Getting my point? Where we are lying behind in the Indian parameters, 456 district out of 640 has attained above 140 MMR. Getting my point? This is such a huge ratio because your expectation is so low from the countries as per the sustainable developmental goal. This is the part of sustainable. This is how you can make the inclusivity of the social economical domain with the environmental point of view plus the sustainable developmental goal. Next point you have to talk about, that is totally belonging to the reducing the inequality segment. If you are making the inequality segment, inequality you need to make the consideration of inequality. If you have to cure this problem, you need to talk in two domains. First is all about gender. Second is all about social. These two are the parameters. This has to bridge the gap on the social parameters, and gender gap you need to fulfill. Getting my point? Gender gap you need to fulfill on gender gap index. You might have heard that is the current situation we have faced in this scenario. We are going to discuss this gender gap in the detail, and social domain you have to bridge the gap which is inculcating the problem of economic diversity, economic inequality we can talk about. The way I have explained the economical indicator with the help of K-shape in curve. You might have heard about K-shaped curve. This is the curve which is, if I am talking about this A point, which refers to the poorer section, which is so difficult to acquire a good pace to reach out to the same level of growth rate which was before the pandemic time. Or this is for the professionals of the service sector, service and the professional. It is easier for them to acquire the same level of pace where they were before the pandemic. Getting my point? This is the difference if we do talk about on behalf of economical domain. This is the economical domain. If you have to talk about poorer sections, you can include MSME, agriculture and the industries which is employment generating in nature. You can involve those segments in this part, and in this behalf, whatever sector you take it as the productive indicator for the economy. Suppose 54% contribution has been made through the service sector. You are considering this sector as the most privileged and productive sector in the economy, as it is contributing more in the economy, but it is not at all contributing in case of employment. Whatever sector which is employment generating, you need to involve the A segment. which this is so hard for this segment to acquire the same pace which was before the time of pandemic. Getting my point? These are the difference. Next point, we were on the point of gender and the social gap. Social gap, this is only the problem which is inculcating the problem of economical disparity. Economical disparity I am talking about. What do you mean by disparity? Which is the inequality. Inequality, what is this? So when resources are not reachable to the majority of the population, to the grassroots level, which is our ultimatum. We are talking about the Nehruvian pledge, which was taken at the time of independence, and after the 75 years, we could have made the analysis how far we have given a kind of approach to the pledge. Whatever pledge we have undertaken in this periphery, at least we should make the acknowledgement of. Gender gap, we were there. Access to the resources and opportunity. Gender gap means we have to give the opportunity. This is for the opportunity for the women's we are talking about. There is a slight difference between these two parameters. This is talking about with reference to women, and this is talking about with reference to women plus the poorer section, which is inaccessible in approaches. Whatever scheme and programs or developmental criteria has been assigned by the government, which is unreachable to the segment, we have to talk about that unreachable segment. We have to make them reachable in that domain. And gender, we have to talk about global gender gap produced by the WEF. WEF is what? World Economic Forum report has been presented. That is the Global Gender Gap Index, and that is totally making the talk on political empowerment. First of all, the thing which has been talked here is on the political domain, economical participation, education and health. Okay. I hope now this is audible. Political environment empowerment, you need to make the acknowledgement of the developmental affairs on 4 parameters. 4 parameters. Political empowerment is all about power. You need to make the consideration of power with the help of political empowerment. What you can make the acknowledgement of, that is political empowerment. Okay. On behalf of power, you can go for the political empowerment. Second, if you have to make the hold on the resources, which is going to raise your power. If you have money, you would have hold on the resources, and if you are holding more and more resources, it is going to raise your power. Obviously, the more income you have, more capacity you are building on the resources, and more resources if you are holding, it is increasing your power or capacity towards the economy, making the more contribution in the economy. Next is all about the developmental goal. Developmental goal is related to both the segment, which is going to raise the awareness. Getting my point? Education and health. These are going to raise the awareness. Getting my point? Developmental segment. If you are talking about the developmental segment, you need to acknowledge the two things. If you are educated enough, with the help of, if you are increasing more and more enrollment, means number of enrollment are going up. Means many of the population, many of the students are taking admissions at least, or if they are taking admissions, how many people are educated from them. If there is increase in this ratio, it means awareness is going on high. If there is high level of educational scenario, it is going to raise the awareness, or if there is more awareness, means it is going to raise the perspective, and it would be in the hand of people to get approachable towards the scheme which has been provided by the government. Getting my point? It would be beneficial for them to make the acknowledgement of the schemes or program which has been provided by the government. They can take benefit out of those schemes and program only when they are aware. And how would they get aware? With the help of education, and if they are healthy enough to get awareness. Getting my point? These two things are different. Yes, this is why I am explaining it again. These are the pointers. And health indicators is totally belonging to how much expectation is there of living as per your health indicators. How much willingness is there in the healthy scenario for your economy. If you are healthy enough, then you would be in condition to make more contribution. This is why we are including continuously in the economic parameters. Getting my point? Number, if I am including, though I have already talked about SDG. First aim is all about poverty. How can you just mitigate the level of poverty? By including more and more people. Including more and more people. How can you do that? Second is all about hunger. By providing the resources to the needed section. To the needed segment. Third is all about health. If you are healthy enough to make contribution in economy, that is going to raise your productivity. That is going to raise your capacity. Fourth is education. If you are healthy enough, if you are educated enough, totally you can make upgradation you can mitigate the gap of inequality at every level, whether it be about economical, whether it be about gender. Getting my point? You would no more talk about the equal basis. If you are educated enough, you can make contribution in the economy. There would be mitigation in the gender gap, in the economical gap. What is the problem of economical gap? Why there is so much of inequality? Because there is lack of accessibility in the resources. You can mitigate that lack of accessibility by providing them resources. How can you provide them resources? By making them educated enough, by making them healthy enough to provide or to get the employment basis. If they are employed, then they would be getting salaries or the income basis, and out of that income basis, they would be having more hold on the resources. Getting my point? So this is the explanation on the same basis. Next point, these are the global. This is the global gender gap. In this gap, we have attained as a whole 135th rank out of 146 countries. Getting my point? It was 156 countries. 156 countries in 2021. In 2021, it was 156 countries, and in today's scenario, in 2022, we had dealt with the 146 countries, and out of that segment, we have attained 135th rank. 135th rank we have attained in that segment. First indicator is totally talking about the power. Second is totally making reference with the resources. And third is dealing with the awareness. Education is all about awareness. And fourth is about the capacity. Are you capable enough to make contribution in the economy? These are the economical term. These are the economical term. On that basis, you can provide the provisions for the unreachable segment. Your basic criteria is to reach out to the segment which is unreachable, inaccessible. You can just increase the reachability with the help of these four terminologies. You need to accommodate these four terminologies. You would be in condition to sort the problem of the socio-economical domain, whatsoever problems you are facing. Getting my point? Power is all about political empowerment. How much rank you have attained, that is 46. And resources, that is the economic participation, you have attained 143rd. You would get shocked to know the situation. We are just after the Afghanistan, Iran and Pakistan. Fourth last rank is the India. We are on the top. We are on the last fourth rank. Getting my point? And which all countries are totally behind in this segment economical participation? Those are Afghanistan, Iran and Pakistan. Getting my point? These are the capacity. Yes, how capable you are to make contribution in the economy. How capable? Capacity is about to how much contribution you are providing towards the economical part. I am just elaborating on the economical point. What you have to think if it has been asked with the consideration of economy. Getting my point? These are the perspective. Every vocab would get changed when you deal with different subjects. Even if you are going to give the UPSC mains, you have to deal with many of the subjects, and vocabulary, most important part for every subject, that is to focus on the vocabulary of every subject, just to make the exploration and just to have a grip on the subjects. If you are making a key points related to the vocab, you would rock in that subject. This is for sure. Getting my point? So these are the economical terms. What you have to think about the domain if these are considering the following economical aspect. Next point is all about economic survey, economic growth and inequality will converge in terms of their effect on the socio-economical outcome. What I have talked about is socio is all about how much involvement is there in the economical activity. If you are making the prosperity in economy, if you are raising the income of the economy, how much population is involved in that segment? Getting my point? If you have attained 10% growth, how much common people, how many common people are getting involved in this segment? Is there 10% growth there in the employment basis? Is there any growth on the employment basis or not with the growth in the income? If this is so, then it is going to make the prosperity. Getting my point? You need to have the growth perspective. If there is growth along with the employment basis, then it would be a signal for prosperity. If you are getting along with if employment is getting along with the growth perspective. What do you mean by employment basis? Means people are getting involved in the period of growth, in the phase of growth. If people are getting along in that phase, means growth is for public, growth is for common public, it would become reachable to the larger segment, to the grassroots level even. Okay? Trickle down effect, trickle down thesis. DNA, this is why DNA, daily news analysis, so important. From where did you get the terminology in economics? Economics is the subject you need to deal on day-to-day basis in order to know the new terminologies. What do we mean by this? Is a very old term though, but if you have to get aware about terminologies, you need to read the current affairs, economical current affairs, and if you are dealing regularly, you will get comfortable with the subject. From where do you get to know about these terminologies? You will automatically get a grip on the subjects. Getting my point? Many of the time economics students do face such problems that economics is is not at all comfortable with the subject. You need to make it comfortable when you do deal. When would you make dealing in the subject regularly? If you would make regularly dealing in the subject, it would make comfortable zone for you people. Getting my point? Trickle down thesis is a kind of reachability. Trickle down means you have to make the reachability to the grassroots level. To the poorer segment, it is not necessary. To the poorer section, many a times people are having lots of resources, but they do not know how to use it. If I do have any asset, suppose, if I have laptop, but I do not know how to access it, how to use it, it is not making any sense that I possess that asset with me. Getting my point? If I do have resources, I should be aware how to make the utilization of that resources. You need to make the accessibility of the resources. If you do possess resource, you should know how to utilize it by providing the awareness regarding that segment. So, first and most important target is to make the reachability and to raise the awareness. If you are raising the awareness, it means what? If you are raising the awareness, this is going to raise the economical activities. By involving more population segment. Okay? Okay. I'll give a question on this segment. Okay? In the last. Getting my point? Trickle down thesis is a kind of insult to the poor. Why this has been written over here is because nowadays whatever growth is accommodating, whatever growth we are achieving, that is without the employment taking place. that is beyond the periphery of employment. It is anyhow, it is anyway. Is it making any progress for the common people? This is the question mark if we do talk about the growth perspective. It used to be a prosperity signal only when it is making the inclusion of people in the employment domain. If this is not so, it would no more be a signal or an indicator for the prosperity. Next, social rights get droned. Social rights, society would get accommodate only with the help of population. Society is made up of the resources. If you are having more resources, if you are accommodating yourself with the fullage or with the capacity, then you would not require any kind of acknowledgement for the social rights. Getting my point? How would I say that? Like if you have to reduce more and more hunger, if you have to work for the food security, if you are making upgradation in that scenario, there would be peace in that periphery. Getting my point? This is whatever fights, whatever social rights, whatever quarrels are taking place, wherever it is taking place, it is just a journey of resources. If you are holding more, why is it so? I want your resources. There is competition of resources, whether it be about individual basis, whether it be about state to state or the country to country. It is all game of resources. How much hold you do possess of resources in the economy. You need to make the allocation of these resources in such an economical sense that would become reachable to the segment which is unreachable till time. And this is all about economic development and the social justice from the grassroots level we are just talking about. And whatever schemes PM Kisan for farmers, Antyodaya Project Yojana to eradicate the poverty part, and the rural Rojgar Yojana just to provide the employment generation. These kind of schemes has proven to be a back burner, means it is not at all that much of accessible which can make the upgradation in the segment. I've told you in the earlier slide that growth is all about prosperity. Development is all about standard of living. You need to make the surety. Getting my point? You need to make a key points of the wording. Growth is all about prosperity only if when you are making the involvement of people, when it is generating the employment basis. Development is a scenario, is the broader aspect which is going to determine the standard of living for any country. Only when it is making the consideration of gender gap, social aspects and the democracy. Democracy is not at all we are taking here or related to the political grounds. I am in the economical term, I am talking about the accessibility. How much resources you are making them available. Getting my point? Resources, how much resources you are making them available, if they are reachable enough, if they are accessible to the large sections, it is going to make them developed. It is going to making a kind of, it is going to build the capacity in them. That capacity is going to contribute in the economy anyhow, in whatever way it is making. So after the 75 years inequality, this is all about the inequality we were talking about. We have to eradicate this problem. This can be eradicated by distributing the resources to the unreachable segment. If we are going to make the upgradation in this segment, it is going to raise the demand perspective, and demand perspective ultimately leading demand perspective will ultimately lead to the employment basis, and employment is going to lead the income basis for the economy. Getting my point? These are the process we can talk about. When will the soul of nation long suppressed find utterance? What do we mean by it? whatever pledge which has been taken during that time, it is continuously widening the gap between these two parts. If this was that much in that time lag, now it is continuously making a widening in the gap rather than making mitigation in the gap. What do we mean by it? There is, if we do talk about 10%, top economical 10% people, those possess approximately how much resources? That is 77 to 80% resources they are holding. Getting my point? 10% people, this 10% people are holding approximately 77% to 80% resources are with only 10% people. And bottom line, 50% population do possess only 4 to 5% resources. You can imagine what is the worst condition we are getting in the scenario. So, I am going to give a glance in a shorter time lag what this is all about. If you have to look at the article, you need to just give a glance what domain and how far we have attained the perspective of how far the pledge of ending inequality of opportunity made at the time of independence under the domain, under the socio-economical domain. Then you have to write up these three perspectives, gender, social and the democracy. Here, what do we mean by the democracy? This is all about common people, how much this is accessible. Then you need to know about the meaning of socio and economical aspect. What do you mean by socio-economical aspects? These are complementary to each other. How much inclusiveness is there for the gender and the socio-economical and resources. If you have more resources, if you have more power, if you have more resources, more income, you would get more power, and out of that power, this inequality would get wiped. And democracy is all about common people. Common people means how much accessibility is there. And 140, you have to eliminate this gap. 140, India is above the 140 per lakh. If we do talk about MMR, how much expectation was there? That was below 70. Now here, so far we were discussing about the global gender gap that is making the contribution in the pointers. Political empowerment, economical participation, educational attainment and the health survival. These are all about, you have to correlate these terminologies with the SDG. SDG means Sustainable Developmental Goal. You need to make the correlation. The more you are making contribution or the collaboration of the terminology, the more authentication would be there in the answers in a shorter words, smaller words. And this is all about power, resources, awareness and the capacity we are building in the health perspectives. And trickle down is the failure, a kind of failure. Why is it so? Because reachability has not gone so far to the grassroots level. Still we do have a larger segment which could be considered as inaccessible in nature. And grassroots I have already told about and I have talked about. And mass poverty, hunger and the health, education, these all are complementary to each other. Poverty, what do you mean by poverty? You need to give the resources, you need to distribute the resources to the segment which is lagging behind. Hunger, you need to fulfill the health criteria. If you are fulfilling your hunger, means you will get capacity to work. If you are working enough, you are going to raise the standard. Third is all about education, which is making the awareness in the segment. These four parameters are going to inculcate in the global gender gap index and social and the global gender index is complementary to each other. This segment is making a grip on the democracy. Democracy, there is what is the economical meaning of democracy? That is all about common people. How much accessibility and reachability you have expanded with the help of programs and these schemes. Okay. So this is all set, and you have to write about the inequality opportunity, how far you have made the approaches of growth towards the common people. How far you have made the approaches of growth towards the common people. Would it be in favor of common people or against? This could be the reasonable answer writing practice for you people. Okay, have lecture at the same time always, and 9 to 10 you have your portion related to the static part of the economics, basic concepts, and second portion of the economics, that is DNA, daily news analysis, that is totally related to the economical current affairs. And if you are attending this session regularly, you will get a grip on the subject, you will get a grip on the economical meaning, and if you are getting comfortable zone, nobody can just stop you from attaining a confidence on the same subject. Thank you so much. Have a great day to all of you.